Fitch Ratings has just predicted a 15% drop in Dubai property prices. Now, it's been 60% on average that property prices have gone up in Dubai, so I think at some point there should be some kind of softening or correction. But this has got a lot of real estate brokers all in a tiz about what's going on and saying that this isn't true and it needs to be nuanced and there's more information within the whole picture. I used to be the sales manager in Nikhil. That was why I came here. So if you're the sales manager for one of the largest real estate developers in the UAE, then that means you used to work in real estate to a very good level, because that's how I got headhunted. Let's have a look at the information, let's look at the data, and I'll tell you from my experience. Hi, this is Jeremy from the Millionaire, Migrant. I've been helping entrepreneurs and investors for the last 25 years avoid costly mistakes that I made since I left the UK when they are building their international wealth strategy. So I'm talking about playing tax the right way, playing investments the right way, having a plan B in terms of a citizenship and a residency as this crazy world gets crazier. So I'm going to show you all the tips to unlock global freedom in today's world. Now, traditionally, real estate markets, eventually, if you start going up at a property price of up to 60% growth year on year between 2020 to 2025 or 2021 to 2025, that's a really, really sharp increase. And if you got on board in that, then that's really great for you. But I think there's a lot of things happening in the macro environment and the micro environment that means that there will be some kind of softening. Now, the previous videos I did talking about why I'm selling my apartments, and I'm also selling a house as well, is that I feel that at some point this can't last forever. And so I just want to crystallize my gains and be able to sit on the sidelines and take advantage of opportunities that I think will actually be happening in the summer. So I did actually go through what I said, and I did actually sell some apartments. I also did put my villa on the market as well. I think the villa will still kind of be okay in terms of price. I just felt that it had a ceiling and I needed to work the capital a little bit better in another location. Time will tell just how well I did with that, but definitely the apartment, I'm putting myself out there. We'll see. The proof is in the pudding, as they say. We'll see if I actually did do a good deal, if I did sell at the right time. And we're going to pull up some data and see what the prices were before I sold and after I sold. I definitely did very well out of it. I don't deny that. But also I had owned the property for many, many years. I did buy at a good time. We're talking about 2010 when things were really down. But at the same time, I think it's important for people to note that if I am saying this, I'm actually doing it as well in real life, and I'll be able to share that data for you. That doesn't mean that you should all sell your apartments or you shouldn't buy apartments. When I say that property prices, according to Moody's, who again, they could get it wrong, and they give a headline number of 15, they say they won't go any further than 15%. So they give themselves some leeway, a range between 5 and 10% it could go down. But some properties, some apartments, and I think it's apartments that are going to be the most affected. I think if you look at the number of properties being handed over right now with the supply, I generally feel that it's really going to be apartments. And I think that's what's going to happen if you look at the data that's coming out from the Dubai Land Department. But essentially, if you look at those apartments, I think not all of them will go down. Some of them will be steady. Maybe some of them might even go up. Maybe the one that you bought or you're thinking to buy will actually go up. So I don't want people to just sit on the sidelines and say, oh, you know what, let's see what happens, because you're going to be, this might be a softening that won't actually change much for the actual apartment you're living in that you're looking to buy, for example. And in the end, you're losing money on rent in a very elevated rental market as well. So some people, it's just worth just taking the plunge. If you do think you're going to be here for a long period of time and you do see that the property prices in the medium long term will go up, which I genuinely believe for all of Dubai, regardless of your asset class, you could just bite the bullet and then just go ahead with it. I think it's just important to take a very objective view with any advice that is coming from any broker or broker/influencer, which unfortunately there's a lot of that going on right now. And I think it's really important just get up to date with data. You can go to Property Finder, which is the most useful resource. You've got others like DXB Interact, you can other resources, but looking at Property Finder now, they've enhanced it so you can kind of see transaction volumes there. They're really making an effort to try and help people to make good, important financial decisions. So again, I'm not a real estate broker. This is not financial advice, but I am actually doing what I say I'm doing because I have been working in real estate for a very long time, more than probably most real estate brokers in Dubai, ironically enough. But essentially, I think it's important just to be objective and have a plan. If you're in it for a quick flip, I have done quick flips. I've turned around properties in 6 months and done double the value. So I've made 100% profit in 5 months. Could have done it in 4, but there was an issue with the contractor. So such type of returns are available, but you have to be A, probably they're complex deals, B, they're cash, C, you need to have a good legal infrastructure, and D, you just need to be ready psychologically and financially. And if you eradicate all of these 4 or 5 components, you probably might not be one of those people. But it's important to have realistic aims. I think some people come into the market in 2025, want to make the returns they made in, let's say, 2009. That's not going to happen. And you could be waiting a long time if you're waiting for the next dip. One important bit of information, which I think is very important, is property is a long-term investment. It's not about getting in and out. I think the most important thing to realize, and this is something that a friend of mine told me, which is very important, and I saw somebody mention the same thing on the radio on Dubai Eye recently, is that a third of the world's population lives within a 4-hour flight of Dubai. When you look at it like that, you can see why a lot of people are investing here now and in the forthcoming future. Every time the market gets more and more mature, you will have more and more investors coming in at higher ticket prices. So you'd have institutional investors. Now you've got REITs coming in now that are becoming more attractive because you've got institutional capital coming to the UAE. And this is good for everybody as the emerging market becomes a mature market. And if you look at those 4-hour flights, it's a 4-hour flight of markets that don't really have any real estate market even close to what the UAE has. So those are people who will be looking at what they're getting and what their bang for buck is getting and saying, you know what, I'd be better off putting the money in Dubai. And I won't go into all the reasons, but we all know one of many different reasons, which is tax, safety. You could go on different things. So if just remember that, and then you'll always understand that you should take some kind of exposure on real estate in the UAE. A lot of our clients have been doing this, and we note that every high net worth person in the world, not every, but the vast majority, if you were to extrapolate the data that we saw, has a property in Dubai. That's another thing that I hope that you'll take away from this video. So as I mentioned, Dubai property prices have been going up a lot. We're talking about 60% since 2021. Now, some people have done better. I've done better than this in some of my investments. I did one bad deal, but that's the way it goes. And I'll be talking about that one bad deal because I think it's quite relevant to some of the things I've been seeing online. Now, why have property prices gone up so much? Well, we're talking about foreign capital is looking for a home to sweat even more because some of the places you can't get the returns anymore. Europe is not working anymore. The US is very hot. And then so people find Africa a little bit crazy, and Asia is a different market entirely. But at the same time, in the UAE, we've also got softening oil prices. You've got the geopolitical issues we've got locally. We've got also a lot of supply coming on the market. So people are looking at that and saying, is this the right time for me to investing? And then when they saw this report from Fitch, that just got a lot of people a little bit panicked. But as always in life, you need to look into things, not just micro and macro, but also I'm in this industry a lot. And let me be very clear, I'm not a real estate broker. I'm not a licensed real estate broker, so there's not investment advice. But I feel that gives me a very strong advantage and viewpoint because I have no skin in the game. I have my skin in the game myself, but I'm not looking to sell you something. So the UAE has got a lot of things right, which has driven this demand. We've got the post-COVID immigration reforms. You've got economic reforms. You've got investor-friendly golden visa, such as this. You've also got the fact that the Russia-Ukraine crisis meant that all these Russians and Ukrainians, when they had to invest, they were looking for another place. So Turkey got some of it, but the UAE got a lot. So you've got the things going on in China. You've got a lot of Indians who've historically invested here. You've got Europeans who are not happy the way things are going. And then you've got the exodus of high net worth investors coming from UK, but pretty much all around the world, you've got people investing here. So that's coming in. But what's happening is that developers are also starting to, developers you never heard of like 6 weeks ago, suddenly with big billboards saying we've launched a new project in multiple places. You talk about probably Maritime City, Expo, Ras Al Khaimah, these type of places. But what a lot of people don't know is that if you're a real estate developer, the kind of average rule of thumb is that 30% goes into your land, 30% goes into your construction costs, and 30% is your margin, which goes into promotions and marketing, commissions, sales, and so on. But as the price of land goes up because the price of property is going up, and because materials are going up because we have inflation and supply chain squeezing, then essentially either that 30% gets compressed, or if you want to keep that 30%, then property prices go up. And that's why you're seeing a lot of these developers, which there are more and more coming on because they see that this is a great business opportunity, but actually what they're doing is they're selling at a premium to a ready property. Now that doesn't really make a lot of sense for me because in my previous background and my experience, normally there should be some kind of incentive for you to buy off plan because you're taking on risk. There's a risk premium. Like I don't know what the market's going to be like in 3 years when the property is built. I don't know where I'm going to be in 3 years. I don't know what it's going to look like, and I don't know what's going to get built next door or in front. But here, the inverse is happening where you're actually getting charged more than what you can find for a ready property. Now, why is that? Mainly that comes to credit. The UAE people don't talk about this, and I don't think real estate brokers talk about it enough, is extremely attractive for credit, right? I'm in here right now in Miami looking around properties as part of what I always like to do. And here, if you want to get a mortgage, you're looking at 6%, resident or non-resident, 6%. The UAE dirham is pegged to the dollar and you're getting it 4%, right? So you've got all the upside returns of 7, 8, 9% that you can get on yield tax-free. Whereas in Miami or in the US, you're struggling to get your 6s and 7s. But by the way, all of that is going to be taxable. So that's one of the reasons why people are investing in the UAE. But it's also something that means that if you don't have the access to that, you're buying off plan because you don't have the money up front, or you don't have a credit profile, you don't have a residency, and you can't get a mortgage. So you're going to off plan because you say, you know what, I can't put down 20, 30%, or I'm not eligible for a mortgage, or I just want to have an installment, or I don't want to take a mortgage. But what's happening is now some of these properties are more expensive than the ready properties, which is something which I don't really understand, because a ready property, yes, you'll have the mortgage, but as long as the rent is more than the mortgage, then you'll be making a profit on the rental income, which obviously with an off-plan property, you don't. But the other thing is concerning me slightly is that if people are doing off-plan, they're just like, well, I'm going to get, let's say the price of property goes up 10%. I'm making 10% on only having put down 10%, rather than making 10% on a mortgage of 80% and a down payment of 20%. So they just see this as a better way to get cash on cash return. And that's all good and well. And there's no shortage of real estate brokers saying you should buy off plan. Actually, I see a lot of them. That's all they even mention. It's like, what about if I just want to get something right now? So why do people think that there's going to be a correction here? Now, essentially, there's a lot of supply coming on. I think there's expected to be 250,000 new units planned over the next 24 months, right? So you can say it's about 10,000 units a month, give or take. If you look at the data coming from expectation of population growth, it's around 10,000 dirhams per month, based on the Department of Immigration in the UAE. Now, essentially, it's not as linear as 1:1. So one person coming in is one apartment, because don't forget, you've got 2 people live together, you've got 3 people living together, you've got people who share, you've got families of 3, 4, 5, 6, but you also get other people who buy more than one apartment, which also happens. But those people who buy more than one apartment only live in one. So the second one is for investment. They won't buy the second and third if they don't feel that there is a genuine reason for them to invest. So this is where we can start to see that if things happen and start to deteriorate around the world, slowly this is going to stop. But all of this pipeline that is coming on, maybe there'll be some delays. And I know they say that construction is getting backed up and there is delays. And I think to a certain extent that's right. But some developers deliver bang on time. Sober, EMA, and others deliver on time. And in the end, I think this is where we're starting to get to that point where it gets a little bit frothy. And this is where I think that there are reasons not to buy, because I do believe that there will be a correction. It's just that it won't affect everyone. 15% is a headline number. And I'll come to that why and who's going to be the winner and loser in that in a little bit later. As long as people don't come into the UAE, this is where you're going to get a bit stuck. Right? I do think that there are going to be a lot more people coming. I don't deny that that is the case. What I'm concerned is I think that supply is outstripping the actual demand. But you can take advantage of this, and I think there's going to be some opportunities coming in the next weeks and months. As we look around the world, I see that things are really expensive. I'm here in the US right now, and I'm pretty surprised how much, for example, Miami, where I'm now, has really become very expensive compared to as it was. So what that means is it kind of slows down businesses. Businesses are finding that people are expensive, rent is expensive, material is expensive, and therefore, essentially, that gets passed on to the consumer, and the consumer's going to say, you know what, it's also expensive for us, and I'm going to hold back. And we're starting to see this with the data that's coming out. You have to understand that the price for oil, until the recent issues between Israel and Iran has happened, dropped very low. That's a good thing. That is a boon for industry around the world. But as long as there is this instability, then the price of oil goes up, and that's not good for everyone around the world. So this is something that's very important to consider, especially as the price of oil has largely reflected in what's happened in the real estate market in the UAE. We're in an area where a lot of the world's oil comes from, and therefore it has a correlation between economic prosperity. So last 2 times where price of oil went down, price of property largely followed thereafter. So but in this case, I think price of oil coming down will stop the market in terms of liquidity and people investing, but it's also going to help the world at large. However, recent events have affected this, and we'll see how that plays out. Meanwhile, real estate developers continue to build their properties, and they are trying to find payment plans that are more attractive. Anything that has a post-payment handover, it's very nice and it's very good, but just watch that they're not building in that into the price, because then it'd be better off to just say, you know what, I'd rather just pay as and when I see it getting built, and then afterwards you can just give me a fair market price for that. Now, again, I strongly believe you should be paying less than what is available, but right now I see that off-plan is accounting for, by the way, 70% of transactions. So again, something else that is writing on the wall. I'm not saying don't buy off-plan property, just make sure you get a good deal. The other thing that is important is that people might say, oh no, but we're going to have an issue with the banks because so many people are borrowing and so many people buying. That could be the case. I don't think so, because I think the UAE banks have been merging recently. You've probably not noticed that. They've all merged and come together. So for example, FAB, First Abu Dhabi Bank, is a case in point. So I think that's a good thing. I think also they did lend on broker fees and land fees, but I think they pulled that back, and I think that was a wise move as well. So they're trying to make sure that we have good liquidity, but not too much over leverage in the market. So I don't really see that being an issue. And you have to remember, a lot more people buy cash in this part of the world than you would expect in, for example, with the US or the EU. The way I see things panning out is I see that essentially of this 15% magic number, first of all, will that actually even happen? We don't know. But I would say that if it is, and let's use that as a case in point, and Fitch, by the way, doesn't always get it right either, as many real estate brokers have been very keen to point out. But again, they're real estate brokers, so it's normal that they should do that. What I would say is that if we do get to 15%, what's going to happen is some people are going to be hit at 5%. So your key prime locations where people just don't really sell that stuff, which is probably your Palm Jumeirahs, Emirates Hills, probably downtown to a certain extent as well, they're not going to go down much, if at all. But then that means to get to 15%, you need, and if that's the average, that's the number, then it means there's going to be some 25%. I think 25% are going to be the places where your apartment is no better or worse than the other 200 in your building, or the building next door, the other 200, and so on and so on. And there, if people can't really discern the difference, you've just got a property that's like everybody else's. If you've got the penthouse, or if you've got the best view or whatever, yes, you've got something. If you've got a sea view, water view, beach view, these type of things is really going to help you protect the downside. But I just see that I don't see that this market is going to correct. Reason being is that everywhere I go around the world, and all the clients I speak to in my daily business all around the world, and the people that contact me, the amount of inquiries we've been having from a lot of people who want to know how they can take advantage of the market and not avoid any issues or a bad deal. I think you need to understand that there's a massive exodus of high net worth people and just other types of people who just don't see opportunity in Europe, for example, which is a very good example. People just don't see any opportunity. They don't see why they should stay. You know, you're going to pay tax from the day you're born and every year thereafter. So I see those people going to places of opportunity. Now, Dubai is not the only place where there is opportunity, but it definitely helped me. Admittedly, I came a long time ago, but I would say even people who came here a few years ago. I mean, real estate brokers are becoming property owners within a short period of time. And I think this is an indication that essentially it's a place that UAE, and one of the best things about the UAE is that it empowers social mobility. Like, it gives you opportunity, gives you a chance to get up and running, it gives you a chance to have that money. You know, there was a guy, Daniel Priestley, who did an interview on London News, and he said that essentially if I was a young person in the UK, I'd leave, make my money in Dubai, and then come back and live. And I think that's pretty much what I did, what I'm going to do, and I think what a lot of people would do. So people will come here, that brings population growth, and that will be able to absorb a lot of the supply that's coming in. By the way, for all you people who've been hate watching and saying, I really want Dubai prices to come down because I don't like Dubai, or because I don't like property, or I'm tired of all these real estate brokers, or because you missed the boat, you also need to understand that you need to be realistic if you think you're going to come in. Prices of the prime stuff that you want to have is not going to come down that much. We had somebody contact a real estate team saying, I'm waiting for a 3-bed by Iman in downtown to come in at 1 million dirhams below what it is today. It's like, buddy, people who own 3-bedroom in downtown, they've paid off their mortgage and they're making a cash on cash return of double digits. They're not going to sell it. And people who buy there, why would you want to sell there? So those people there, I think you're going to be a little bit disappointed. I think I said in the video that I'm going to be buying in the summer. I still believe that's the case. I see that it's always historically been a good time for me, either renting or buying. But I also think that with this situation between Israel and Iran going on, by the way, business goes on every single day in the UAE. As one of my traders told me, it's like if you exited the market every time that there was an issue between Middle East, you'd be bankrupt. Business keeps going. Bloomberg said that more and more millionaires are coming here every single day. Hedge fund managers are coming to Dubai. They don't have any issues with everything that's going on. So the medium to long term, still the place to be. But I think with that instability in the short term, right now, you're going to see a lot of wobbles, and you're going to see some people saying, you know what, I want out of this property. And I think you will find a lot of those opportunities in the off-plan market, because those people who've only got 10% skin in the game because they only put a 10%, who are told by their broker you can flip it onto the next guy. What if there isn't the next guy? I don't think there's going to be a next guy for some of these projects. And if it's a good project and the price is good and you can see that there's an opportunity, get involved. If you want us and my team to be able to assist with you, we're more than happy to. I have my own team. They're not commission only. I don't have 100 brokers. I've just got a small team of guys, a lot of data and a lot of experience, and we help you to find the right opportunity. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be doing more in the future, but I still believe UAE is a place to invest. It's all about timing and location. Thanks very much. I'll see you in the next video.